Okay, we are live. Good evening. Happy New Year's, everybody. Um, I'm Kay. This is Morally Loaded. And I'm here today with Tally again. And we're going to, I don't know, I guess talk about 2025 and what's happening, what we hope, or what our kind of like predictions or thoughts are for the year ahead in 2026. Yeah, Tally, how's it going?
It's going. Yeah. It doesn't feel like 2026. 2025 was a trippy year, so I look forward to doing some reflecting with you, Kay. But it's great to be here chatting with you.
Yes, it is. It's good to be back and glad we're able to be here, albeit a bit late. Sorry about that. Yeah. We got to talking.
Yeah, we're girls, so we chit chat, and sometimes it gets out of hand.
Yeah. So you have a good holidays overall?
Yeah, busy, working a lot, but saw some family and stuff on my wife's side, so that's always nice.
Yeah.
And yours?
It was good. It is busy. I mentioned I'm very ready for everybody to go back to school and work and to have some, I don't know, time
Peace.
to not be like momming so hard, for a little bit to kind of get my brain screwed back on. And for, I don't know, it feels like the world is like this week between Christmas and New Year's, and right from after New Year's until like things start again is like this abyss of like nobody knows what the fuck they're doing or what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All schedules are all over the place. Nothing's open. Nothing's happening. And, I think that there's a time in my life where I really enjoyed that. But now I'm just like, I don't know.
You want order.
I have no idea what's going on. Yeah, I want my shows. I want to catch up on what's going on in the world. And,
You want to restore law and order to your home and neighborhood.
Yeah. And I want all my content to be back on a regular viewing schedule. So
I've been left to watch like niche documentaries and like video bloggers while all the politics people have been streaming less. So looking forward to getting back to that, certainly.
Yeah, and everything's like, the news cycle is just old because everyone's putting out pre-recorded content, which is lovely, but I don't know, kind of it's a little bit less of the drama, which is probably a good thing. Gives like
for our nervous systems at least.
Yeah, it gives society a collective moment to like take a breath and pause a little bit. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, it's been a crazy year. Thinking about the fact that even just a year ago, like Trump was not president yet. Yeah. It feels like, I don't know what's weirder, that Trump wasn't president a year ago or that Biden was. I feel like Biden being president feels really, really long ago.
Yes. Yeah.
And I guess it kind of stopped feeling like he was president once Trump won the election in November. And I guess that's sort of normal, but that feels like ages ago. So it's kind of crazy that was like 11 months ago, basically, a little over 11 months ago. Biden was still there.
Yeah, I think that was like, I think after 4 years of Trump, a lot of people, when Biden came in, even if they weren't thrilled about him, were kind of happy for like a more boring, quieter, slower news cycle, if you will.
Yeah.
And it seemed like in the government political type side, and then this past year of Trump coming back and everything, well, I guess like since the election, it has kind of like ramped back up to where it had been with the insane like speed and like all of the stuff that just happens, one thing after another, and how it's covered too, obviously. So I can definitely see how it's like a huge kind of like shift.
Yeah, and I feel like within the last year. So Trump was inaugurated, and I feel like he's already basically a lame duck, and his first year in office isn't even over. I don't know if it's just the amount that I'm paying attention now compared to, previous elections when I was more or less invested.
Mhm.
But I don't recall I feel like the rat race really has begun already, and like the everyone's focus, either explicitly or implicitly, at least on the right. The left is still very much focused on Trump, I should say. And there's some valid reasons for that. Obviously, he's president of the United States, but it seems like everyone is focused on what comes next, what comes after Trump.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, people are like, a lot of, from what I can tell, people on the left and the right seem to believe that 2026 is going to be a big, swing blue.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have enough of a handle on anything to make any type of prediction like that.
It feels way too early for that to be definitive right now, just with how fast everything shifts. Right,
we don't even know who half of these people are.
I hear it, but like I'm also okay, but I don't know. Like we've been more sure about things and been wrong about them. You know what I mean? So like I'm not sure. I could definitely see it happening, and it would make sense, and it would follow I think the historical trends on like how these elections tend to go. So I can see it, but you can also see I don't know, any number of things happening in the next 6 months that kind of, I don't know, shift things a lot with how.
Yeah, and I feel like if this is true, and I think, like you said, maybe the best predictor that we have is just the historical trends, right? This is very common that the midterm election, you see a swing away from the president's party. Yeah, I feel like kind of an inverse of how I felt in 2024. Maybe it's not a perfect inverse, but I feel like if the right does lose, they deserve it, and I don't want the left to win. I sat through all of these struggle sessions of how much do you regret voting for Trump? Would you change it now? Would you, who would you vote for instead? All of these things. And for all the things that I don't like about Trump or the administration or the right more broadly, I feel less confidence than ever about the left. I haven't seen any real or what I would perceive to be authentic moderation. It seems like all of the people who are starting their campaigns for the 2026 midterms, basically all of them, their number one platform position is I don't take APAC money. Zoran Mamdani was sworn in as mayor of New York City last night, talking about ending the renegade individualism and covering everyone with the soft blanket of collectivism.
Oh, wow.
And so I feel just as bad as ever about the prospects of the left.
Yeah I don't feel any better about the left, and I feel much worse about the right currently. And that's kind of been how it's been trending. Because it just looks like they're doing what the left did, was letting their crazies take over, letting their fringe dictate where the party is going, and it's it is painful to watch. Just because it's just nothing good will come of that, and it's you want to shake people and be like, you've been screaming about this on the left for so long, and now you're doing the same thing there. But at the same time, I get it because it's effective. In some way, in the immediate,
it's effective in that it's loud and it attracts attention. And really the only thing people can get a real pulse of is popularity, right? And how much attention something is garnering. But is it effective? I mean, everyone smart who I agree with, right? Of course, people who are smart I agree with, and if I agree with someone, they're smart. But it seems like tailoring your message to the extremes of your party really does just lose you the middle. And it seems obvious that that part of the Trump coalition was a disaffected middle.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's a winning strategy. I think it's an attention grabbing strategy, and there is obviously this movement. There are some people who are behind this, and it feels ascendant. But I think maybe one, as we reflect on the new year, I don't know how powerful I think this segment of the right really is. I think I think it was before we were recording, you and I, we were talking about Megyn Kelly briefly, and I was just saying that every time she tweets now, I look in her, she gets likes and she gets attention, but I look in her replies and she's getting so much pushback from people on the right and on the center right. It's not lefties in there calling her racist and mean, right? It's people who come from her side pushing back on her. And so
I think
that makes me feel a little,
Yeah, no, I'm just saying she cultivated an audience though that expected something from her, and they're not getting that. So I think they'll do that. Like people who follow her and who liked her will push back against her for that. But they're, you know what I mean? But that's not everybody. She was a lot more moderate before. So I think like to that end, yes. And I don't know if those are like the loudest voices, you know what I mean? Broadly, who are, those aren't the same. Obviously, they're not the same people who are, you know what I mean? Going towards like the more radical figures. And what I mean effective, like in the immediacy, it's effective. I don't know if it's an effective long-term strategy, but the left used it, and there was an immediacy, like insofar as that it garnered more attention. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
but is that a good measure for political
support?
Efficacy.
The left had a lot of support for a while before it burnt out. So in terms of that, like, yes, but obviously I don't think it was worth it. Right. It was awful. And it kind of like destroyed what like the current left is. And I don't, but just to say, like, I can see the appeal. I'm like, not, I don't want that, but I see why people are doing it.
Well, you just strangely made me a little hopeful because it was popular on the left, and even amongst people who were not true believers, it was adopted, right? The lingo, right? Like that style was adopted, and like legitimate policies in different, industries and stuff were adopted to reflect this more extreme view. And what we saw with the sort of vibe shift of the 2024 election is some of these industries and businesses and people, not all of them, obviously, far from all of them, but some of them basically just dropped it, right? Like a hot potato. They, without what I would have liked, right, is for people to mea culpas, right? Not like that you have to like flog yourself, but just an explanation of what you think you got wrong and what you believe now. But we didn't get a lot of that, but fine. But we did see people flee the ship when it became less popular because it was very transparent. It was very thin. So you just made me a little hopeful that maybe we can see that on the right. Like if this movement starts to die in popularity, that there are institutions and people and whatever who wore it like a fad who will just drop it. And again, I don't have like a ton of respect necessarily for those people if you do so without explaining yourself. But I'm happy if anyone drops it, frankly. So maybe we'll see a similar trend, I hope. We lost your camera. I don't know if that's intentional or not.
I'm gonna try again. See if
okay.
There we go.
You're back. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it just, I agree with what you're saying in terms of like, yes, people kind of like got burnt out or, they felt it went too far. It just took a while and there was a lot of damage done. So I hope it wouldn't take that long on the right because there are some aspects of what's going on that I find, I don't know, like more malevolent than I found on the left. You know what I mean? I think there were people on the left that were kind of people at the very top. I think probably had more malevolence and more bad intentions and selfish intentions and self-serving intentions, but a lot of the people who were true believers believe what they were doing things for good, even though it was incredibly misguided and nasty and like authoritarian and like treated people terribly and allowed like the worst personality and character traits to like, you know what I mean? It gave them like a place
It gave
to
rise to
thrive.
like mass cluster B.
Yeah, like give a really good place for, a vessel for all of that to kind of like, explode. So bad, but there was some part of it that seemed to be,
you had to hide your cruelty. You couldn't, or unless it was directed at the right people, right? Which it can't be understated, right? Cruelty was allowed and encouraged against bad people, the people outside of the community of the good, as David Hirsch coined it. But yeah, no, you're right.
There was something about it that felt.
It's there's more explicit malevolence on the right. And it kind of goes back to what Richard Hanania, I don't know if he was the one that coined it or not, or if he was just kind of publicizing it, but like the virtue signaling versus vice signaling. And so the cruelty, even to a point where like it's not even necessarily authentic, that doesn't make it better, but like it is just like there is a shock value of saying the cruel things and saying the most extreme thing, and you get social credit for that on the right. I think, and this is my own maybe slight mea culpa, never tell the live and learn boys, because they truly had nothing to do with this. The right imploded on its own. It had nothing to do. There are no compelling messengers pulling people to the left, as far as I can tell. But I was like intrigued by dark MAGA, whatever that was, like not that I was not an Elon Musk like super fan or anything like that, but I was like, I'm behind the smart autistic people who are like sort of dispositionally liberal, but aren't going to put up with the suicidal empathy of the left, and don't believe in this nonsense and don't want to discriminate on sex or race or any of these things. And like I felt like I was following the smart people. And now, well, again, I have to reiterate, I will not be voting for the left. Because I just so wholly disagree with basically all of their, policy prescriptions and the way they view the world. But I now feel like I'm on the side of fucking retards. And as someone who is a vibes voter, that doesn't feel good. I don't like the vibes anymore. And it's like, it's the conspiracism, the actual conspiracism, the fucking retards. Again, like, no, I don't mean the people who like still have questions about COVID, and I don't mean the people who are like are skeptical of mainstream media. No, I mean like the pizza gators, like I mean the actual flat earthers. And like and I didn't see that as part of the MAGA that I was signing on to. And again, I never really felt like MAGA, but I did feel like I was joining a side. And now I'm looking around and I'm like, there are a bunch of idiots here. And it's not like I see all the smart, thoughtful, principled people on the left. I don't. Frankly, the people who I see as like my North Stars seem to just once again have like ricocheted back into the middle. It was like all of these people who were pushed so far away from the left because the left was crazy. And now we're all kind of being smacked in the middle again. And not in the middle as in we believe 50% of what the left is saying and 50% of what the right is saying, but they're just like being pushed, kind of pressured out of these things because of their hostilities to the principles that we hold, I guess. Not to be so holier than thou. Of course, like I think my beliefs are correct because I hold them, but zero fucks. I forgot that word, the acronym that he came up with, the ICUMs, the ICUMs, the independents, centrists, undecideds, and moderates. Okay. And I think he's right. Those are the kingmakers. Those are the people who they make up the majority of the electorate. And those people do not like the crazy socialists, and they don't like the people who are like literally calling themselves national socialists either.
I don't know like where the fuck it goes from here. You know what I mean? It's yeah, like so disheartened with kind of like the sharp turn. And I don't know if like there are people on the left who will be like, we saw
This is always what it
coming.
was. I know.
And I'm like, maybe
No, and
parts of
so
it.
they
was,
both did, and they are responsible for it. And I say they, I was them, so I am responsible for it. You know, I was crazy interpersonally, and just like the way that I would speak to the public and post. I was pushing terrible, crazy things. I was alienating people in my real life that I had grown up with and gone to school with, and people in my family, and all of this stuff. They saw something, and they also, and it doesn't make it right, but they also they saw this Nazi element, for just to overly simplify it, because it is true, there is a Nazi element. They saw this Nazi element, and they applied it to everyone, from Jordan Peterson, you know, to Steve Bannon, right, and everyone in between. And then you had a bunch of people who do the immature child thing, where it's like, okay, if you call me this enough, then I'm just gonna be it. And then you had other people who said, well, if you call me enough, I'm just not gonna care about the word, right? And they contributed to this, to the very real, I guess there's so much conversation about young white men, and they contributed. Now there is no excuse for whoever these young white men are. I don't even know how much of them are young white men that are like these gripers and stuff. Frankly, they seem to be like fat Mexicans and like vaguely Indian young men, but okay, whatever. The response to white young men feeling, you know, alienated and isolated is not necessarily the path that some people are going down on the right, but it is the fault in so many ways of the left that we got into this position. Being white, being a man, being straight, all these things were legitimately vilified. And I could just hear in my ear like the Lib and Learn boys, right, who would be like laughing this off the stage because they see this as like small potatoes and not important, but they see what's happening on the right as very important and a huge five-alarm fire, with no connection of how these things, they are connected. Everything is a reaction. You know, the left calls the right reactionary, but the left is super fucking reactionary, right? The reason that we got like what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word where you are like the cities where ICE can't work with the sanctuary cities. The reason that we got sanctuary cities for trans kids is because of reactionary politics on the left, right? They saw what was happening on the right, and they said, I'm going to do the equal and opposite of that. If there are Republican cities, you know, red cities that are going to outlaw this care below 18, then we're going to let anyone across the country come and hide in our fucking city and you know, give their kids this treatment. So both sides are reactionary, and I do feel like I'm just in a fucking ping pong game going back and forth. And in some, interestingly, the right is very explicit about how they are reactionary. Like so many of them say, well, the left was doing this for so long, we need to A, give them a taste of their medicine, and B, beat them down with it so hard that they'll never try something like this again, which is so fucking naive, as if people are deterred in that manner. As if politics works like that, really. But so they're explicit about that on the right, and again, they this whole like the right needs to unify thing against the left. It's like very explicitly the only principle they seem to have as a unifying message is the same that the left was doing. We're all against Trump. Now the right is we're just all against the left. So sorry, that was a rant, but like there does not seem to be any reflection on the left of how we actually got to this place and the role that they played in it.
So I think yes to all of that, and then I start to think about, because we've talked about like how my brain works or how I see things. I'm like, well, all of these things that like were sold to the left, and how all this messaging came in over time, like I start looking and I'm like, I don't want to be overly conspiratorial, but like it had to kind of like get smuggled in over time. It took a while to like to create this like fertile ground, if you will, for everybody to suddenly like hate each other in the country. It didn't all happen quickly, right? Because like it was kind of like, it was kind of slow and then like all
at once. Yes.
So, but also you can't get a population, like any population or group of people, to just like randomly suddenly start hating themselves if they're happy. Like if people are happy and they're secure and they're stable and they feel good, generally, not like all of the time, but do you know what I mean? Enough, then
contentedness.
Yeah, and they have enough going for them, then you know, I don't know that this can happen. So there has to be something already very wrong, or something, you know, happening behind this stuff, maybe not behind the scenes, or like maybe not a one-to-one. Do you know what I mean? That's like kind of affecting enough people, you know, to enough of a degree that they're willing to take on these messages, because it can't, like,
do you mean like material conditions?
Could be material conditions. It could be like I think it could be a combination of material conditions and like hope for the future, financial stuff,
personal development,
and spiritual conditions as well, like lack of faith overall, lack of religion, material conditions, and then also like I said, like cancel culture is kind of like this activist culture meets therapy culture, like very much so. It's like, you know, type of deal where it all kind of explodes. But like there has to be some kind of something happen. You can't just take happy people and suddenly make them hate themselves. You know what I mean? Like overnight. So it had. How did that happen? That's kind of like what we're too.
And you're focusing on the left. You're talking about how this was able to get a stranglehold on the left. I asked that because I've heard, I think it was James Lindsay and someone else too, talking about what we're seeing on the right, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? There are a lot of different things happening on the right, and some of them like largely coalesce under like post-liberalism, but even there are a lot of fractures within that. But if we look at that, you know, he's been talking about it in the context of when we are in a time of downward mobility, people are essentially more vulnerable to these things. And he's talking downward economic mobility, right? And which is class, you know, that's tied in with your social class and things like that. I don't know. I'm like a little bitter about it because, or I guess I take the more Ben Shapiro position, which is like things are hard, but like life is hard.
Yeah.
And we should be telling people that they need to make the best of what they have, right? And try to build and not to wallow. And I feel like there's messaging on the right now, which is you should wallow. You have been treated unfairly and you should wallow. And we're going to make sure everything is super fair for you. We're going to wrap you in collectivism. Like it is the socialist messaging that's happening on the right. And it just makes me like, I don't know, I want to have sympathy. And I have, now that I don't have, finances are everything. Like the leading factors for like anxiety and depression and suicide is like financial stressors. So I'm not trying to discount that, but there's just like no, these are the financial stressors of people living in the best country, the best continent in the world at any point in history. There doesn't seem to, people are really and I know I'm not saying anything new, you know, this is not like revelatory, but it's hard to have a lot, like I have much more sympathy for the like identity factors that people were targeted on.
Yeah.
Frankly, you know, like that is unjust and that is like psychologically torturous, and especially for young people who are trying to commit to themselves and they don't want to be bad, you know, all of these things. But like, and I don't know, maybe I'm also like unaffected from it. Like I grew up in New York and I live in Hawaii now, which are expensive places, but these are not like, this is not flyover country America where cities have changed dramatically in like 20 years. Yeah. So maybe I just don't have the same perspective. But if neither side is telling people to work hard and pull themselves up by their bootstraps, then we're wallowing in the best place to be in the best time in the history of human civilization.
Oh, for sure. And I think that like people need to hear those messages 100%. Like that's the, my life got like infinitely better when I just became completely responsible for all of it. Like that was, but
Yeah.
it's hard for me to even like wrap my mind around like thinking I could blame anybody, you know what I mean? Anybody else or anything else other than like, the choices I make day to day. And that doesn't mean I have like complete and utter control over every aspect of my life, but by and large, I am, I have agency, and
and things are still unfair, but but we
you suck it up and you
yes
keep going, yeah, I just think for the way it took hold in our culture, it's like so many people had to be so vulnerable. Do you know what I mean? Or like for enough for it to get a hold. And I just wonder about like when we look back, when I guess we have enough space from it. You know what I mean? And
Right.
they look back. It probably won't be us, but you know what I mean. What will be like identified as a particular vulnerabilities, or like how this started to come in. And the only reason I care is because like I'd like to be able to prevent it, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes the way to prevent something from happening again is to understand how it happened. So, and that's just like, how I try and like parse things out and make sense of it, and just try and and analyze it through that. But I also think that definitely could get lost in trying to figure things out, and it doesn't really matter, and kind of like the only way out of it now is through it, and we can let them deal with it like later. Now the point is just to like fucking run in the other direction from
I don't know what direction that is.
Yeah. Right. So, but it's not, I don't know if it's collective, and it's not like just individualism either, right? Like to the I don't know, to the opposite degree, so I don't know.
Right. It's not individualism that it's not leftist individualism, right? That sheds spirituality, or sheds religion and sheds familial tie. It's weird to call it leftist individualism, because leftism is like collectivist, and they are in the way they speak. They talk about people in terms of their class that they belong to, which is based on their race and their physical abilities, right, and their sexuality and all of these things. But they are also radical individualists in their like sort of like antenatal perspective, and like really the only thing that matters is like how fulfilled each person is as an individual, right, at the expense of you cut your family out if they don't support you, right? You don't need them anyway. We've got more people here who will. And so I agree that that's obviously not the answer. What's the middle ground is what I feel like America was like supposed to be, is like you treat people like individuals, right, on the merit of on the content of their character, right, and on the merit of what they are able to achieve, and that all of these individuals go home to groups and communities. They go home to their family and to their to their church or to their synagogue and to their town. And obviously things are complicated by technology and globalism and all of these things, but they also like I don't know, there's something to the naive hope of the internet age, which is like we are all more connected, and now people who don't have these types of communities exactly in their geographic location can have connection and access and all of these things. Both sides seem to have given up on that.
I don't know, like it. I don't know, like it seems it doesn't seem like people are looking to connect so much as they're looking to like have their thoughts, like, you know what I mean, like regurgitated back to them by people. often.
Right.
That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like, at least. I don't know if that's true everywhere, but that's kind of like in like the larger communities,
Yeah.
or larger platforms. That's kind of like how it seems. It doesn't look like there's a lot of connection happening, but
Right.
I
Right. Well, certainly not in the way that it's
right, yeah.
Right. Not necessarily
Yeah.
in the ways that people are using it. And the
Yeah.
incentives of social media, right? Like
Perverse
they've turned
incentive.
to money making algorithms as opposed to like a place where you go and message your friend or something like that.
Yeah. I remember like the earlier days of the internet. It was great for, making friends and meeting people. And I mean, there's still that now. It just like the perverse incentives and the way the algorithm works is so it made to make us angry, right? So it's hard to kind of figure out where do we go with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the question that you posed of like kind of like what brought us here.
Mm-hmm.
What were the conditions in the environment that allowed these things to proliferate? And I think you're asking about the left, only because it seems like this proliferation on the right is like we're live, like it's like now, and I feel like we have a decent finger on the pulse of like where this is coming from.
Yeah, I think because previous to this, like there always was like the left and the right, but it was very different, right? Like the left had like a lot of the cultural cachet and like entertainment industries, and it was like cool to be left, and like the right was like always the butt of the jokes when people talk about how the right has all the media ecosphere. I don't know that's true. I just remember growing up in a world where like
it's not true.
Yeah, the right was like, you know what I mean? It was like always like the butt of a joke to be a conservative or to be right wing. You know what I mean? It was not seen as any kind of anything cool, but and then so so we had it was a different left and a different right, and I think the right held on to different values and tended to be more religious and tended to have you know what I mean? It had completely different disposition. So the things that like impacted and kind of like we saw in the left culturally and like through through those groups of people was very different. I think it's like spreading now much larger because it like kind of like took over the entire left at some point and I think that also is happening to some degree on the right, but I don't know if it's quite the same.
It's really hard. I don't know. I just did my whole mea culpa of I feel like I'm surrounded by retards on the right. So we'll let that sit there because that's still true. But I still feel more optimistic about what could come of this on the right than the left. Because like you said, I mean, the entire left did give into it. I don't even understand people who try to make the argument that they didn't. Like everyone passively at least absorbed these ideas. No one is any people who were of the left who were condemning any of like the real sort of culture war issues are not on the left anymore. All of those people were the people that I started listening to and reading about and hearing interviews from when I started having my ideological change, because they were being interviewed by people in the heterodox space, which was essentially like based liberal centrism is how I saw it, and I think is like still probably an accurate description of it. Mostly based, I don't know, whatever. But if you're on the left and you like really take a stand against any of these things, you will just be bullied out of the left. The right is sincerely fragmented in that like obviously you had the people who fled the right in the Trump era. Some of those people seem to still be sort of principled conservatives. Others are just like totally in the tank with the Democrats. Like they've a lot of their worldview and policy prescriptions have changed. But I do feel like the right, I was talking to a friend about this, a non-Jewish friend who had like met on Twitter, and we share like sexology interests together. Basically, we don't talk about like political stuff, but she has been like disturbed to see a lot of like the anti-Semitism and stuff that's happening, and we kind of chat about it sometimes. And it really does feel like the institutional part of the right, like basically the people who actually hold electoral power for all the other issues they have, like they're still preaching like traditional conservatism, and they're still, you know, supporting Israel as an ally of the United States, and they haven't made this anti-Semitic turn. And well, I have a few things to say there, but so it does feel like there's like the voter base don't exactly know what the normie people are feeling. I think most normies are probably turned off by a lot of the stuff. You have the politicians who seem to be largely unaffected by this, including Trump, who almost like naively unaffected, right? Like I don't even think he knows what's going on really. In, you know, that sort of dissolution of the right-wing coalition. And then you have the podcasters and like the sort of alt media space. And those people are not all, they are fighting each other actively in a way that doesn't happen on the left, right? The alt media left will bring on a Democratic politician or whatever, eviscerate them, you know, chew them up, and then that the person kind of leaves with their tail between their legs, whatever, and that's it. They don't come out swinging. Like to just as like one example, you have the Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz thing. You know, Ted Cruz came back swinging, you know, and he is like making it clear that he doesn't align with them. Whereas that doesn't happen on the left. You know, you have, what's her face, that Michigan, I just remember that like one Breaking Points video with that Michigan, who I'm forgetting her name right now. I always, I confuse her name with Elise Stefanik, and the two of them are very different. So that's not who I'm talking about. But anyway, yeah, that woman, like they just, they're not willing to go to war with each other, which is actually ironic too, because the left likes to see itself as the warring party of ideas, and their big thing is like, oh, why can't we all just get along and coalesce the way the right does? But right now the right is really not coalescing. There, you know, there is fighting, and so I'm hopeful about that.
Yeah,
I'm just reading some zero fucks in the chat. They haven't even learned their lesson either. They're still making excuses for DEI not being an issue. You had people like Destiny agreeing with Ta-Nehisi Coates over Ezra Klein in their discussion. Yeah. And again, it's like that, dude, Destiny was the base liberal. Like, that's why I was like a big fan of Destiny. I still like Destiny. All the things he does, even when I get really like angry with him, obviously it's all parasocial. I don't know him at all, right? But like, I don't watch him as regularly as I used to, but like, I still like Destiny. I still think like, I like a lot of his analysis on different things, but yeah, his like hatred of the right, he was negatively polarized in the same way that he's agreeing with Ta-Nehisi Coates versus Ezra Klein. And that's the crazy thing too, is like, Ezra Klein is the most reasonable on the left. Like, he's the one trying to forge like a normal, pragmatic left, and he is like basically universally hated on the left. Even the people who like the abundance stuff, they don't credit it to him. They credit it as like abundance style stuff, but like they are they're so turned off by his willingness to compliment Charlie Kirk, right, and all of these things. And the sad part about that is, to me, Ezra Klein is crazy. He's like way too far left for me on so many things. No,
agreed.
And so, and yeah, I mean, zero fucks. You're completely correct. The DEI stuff, they still have, they're not just not admitting, which again, I could like probably get over that. I wouldn't like it, but I could get over people if they were willing to just like drop this stuff and not do a mea culpa. But no, there's just doubling down.
Yeah, it was Elisa Slotkin. I looked it up. But
Thank you. Yes, Elisa Slotkin, who I confused with Elise Stefanik. Okay, those are very similar names, so that makes more sense why I always confuse their names.
Yes, and what Zero Fucks was saying about Destiny being based on Rittenhouse, making him seem reasonable. Yeah, and then he took a position where he was talking to people more, doing more conversational stuff and not like, swinging so hard. And I happened to like that style more. I found the conversations more interesting anyways than just kind of the way some of them I guess went after that. I personally did not think it was particularly effective, to hold the line and take the stances as far as he has. But what the fuck do I know, right? Like it works for him for whatever he's doing. So like I'm not necessarily critiquing that specifically. It's just less interesting. But I don't think I'm like the target viewership either. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. And again, like I've already throat clear enough here, but like just how far I feel from the left. But yeah, I look at all the people that like follow him and what their political prescriptions are, not even just for like what they want to see in the country, but how they want to fight this fight. And it's like, oh yeah, we are so far from truth and reconciliation. Like in that people speak the truth and we reconcile with each other, right? Like in just the most like literal sense. No, everyone is just like wants to go to war.
Yeah.
But not actual war, because everyone's a fucking pussy. But everyone wants to go to rhetorical war. Well, and that's what pushed Destiny away, is he felt like he wasn't winning when he was speaking with these conservatives. He felt like he would make concessions that are like part of having a friendly conversation that they would never concede. And I think there's like there's some truth to it, that he was being sort of paraded around on like the sensible right, or what I would say is sensible right, whatever, as the token liberal, like, okay, this is true.
Yeah.
But also like, but you weren't there to be made fun of. They saw you as reasonable, and that's good. Like, that is good. That type of bridge is, in my opinion, at least, like, that's a positive thing. But he felt like he wasn't winning, and he wasn't winning.
But I think winning
in the way that he wants to win. Yeah.
Like it's going to take a long time, right? It's not like not going to happen quickly. It's like those kind of things, I think, take a long time to build that kind of, to move people who aren't like inclined to be on your side. Moving them towards your side takes a long time. That's not something, typically. I think it can happen quickly, but I don't know how much it lasts. You know what I mean? To like, for it to be like a meaningful, for those changes to be meaningful, and maybe couldn't get concessions out, or maybe he was trying to get concessions. I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch specific conversations on what types of things he was pushing on. But it could have been that the things they were pushing him on were more reasonable than the things he was pushing them on. You know what I mean? Right. Or not. I would have to go back and see. But it depends on like how we define the things, right? Because living in very different worlds, very different realities a lot of the time. And sometimes I still see the way that like a lot of these people, these streamers or these voices on the left will like frame certain things. And it's just like willfully ignorant, or if it's obtuse, and it's like they refuse to make any like reasonable connections to things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't know. Like, look, I don't know how to take you seriously, or if you want to be taken seriously, or if you can think like properly or clearly, like if you, I don't know, you know what I mean? If you can't just see like basic truths in front of you, like, I don't know. I think like this whole thing with the Somalian fraud.
Yeah.
On one hand, I think that guy and that documentary or whatever he did was like pretty garbage. It wasn't very good. He didn't do a very good job in his reporting. But to say that there's
Right. The kid is not impressive.
No.
Frankly. Yeah. Right.
He did not do a good job. That is not how I would. I don't know. I would never put something like that out. I'd be like, there's too many holes in it. There's too many flaws. Anyways, but that's just me. Like I haven't proven anything. You know what I mean? Really. So yeah, on that hand, yes, definitely should be getting pushback. But to say that there's nothing there,
which is what Destiny is doing.
There looks like there could be some stuff there. And
there's probably a lot there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. It's like this guy's video didn't necessarily help because I don't know. Listen, it's not his fault. My understanding that I didn't know at the time is also like Nick Shirley went to like Ukraine at one point and like did a documentary about that I think had like a lot of falsehoods and whatever. Okay. Yeah. And again, just like in over his head, maybe, I don't know, whatever. I think there probably is a huge problem with fraud.
Yes.
In that community and even across, like I saw there were then people online after his video came out, like looking in their area, and there was someone who posted and it was like, I think it was Seattle, and it was like 10, like they were looking, it was similar like Somali daycare fraud basically, and they found that like 10% of the schools of the registered schools, whatever, were registered as Somali speaking schools. There's 10% of the Seattle population doesn't speak Somali. Like that should be an obvious red flag right there, right? And so yeah, I think there probably is a lot of fraud, and it's embarrassing the way that some people on the left are just immediately going to bat for this.
And at the same time, people on the right don't need to like defend like that guy and his reporting and how he did things. We can say like it can be true that like that the way it was presented and some of the things that he showed, I don't know, were not very strong claims, and that it could have been, I don't know, bad faith, but if like you're going somewhere and you're purposely not showing the hours of a place and saying that there's nobody there, that's a little sus and probably not great. But then also, why? I don't know. It to me like, well, why didn't you go there for the week before? And like
I was gonna say,
it would be such an easy thing,
or not just that, right? It could have been
time consuming, like
right. Well, instead of like he had this guy David, and David doesn't get a last name, right? And David's the one who's been best. And listen, I'm sure like a lot of what David's saying is true. I just this seems like very possible to me that there is like major fraud in these government funded programs, right? It's free money, like it's going to incentivize a lot of bad things, especially if the overseers there are like hypersensitive of being called racist and anything like that. So I think there's like probably a lot of truth to it. But he brings this guy David, no last name, who says, I've been to this place 100 times, never seen kids. Well, then you should attract that show. We went, we went every Wednesday, whatever. And then even I saw this guy, this right-wing guy, who was posting on Twitter, who someone else in their local community was going and checking daycares and exposing the fraud in their community. And he was like, hey guys, just let you know, my kid's daycare has been closed since the day before Christmas, hasn't reopened yet. And so maybe this is a bad week for everyone to decide that they're investigative journalists checking out their local daycares, right? Like you said, it's like it needs to be a little longer. But then as Zero Fox pointed out, the people on the left, they're taking the position both that there is no fraud and that we've known about this fraud for years, and it's like, and they're taking care of it.
Yeah.
And even this, like the left came out and said, oh, Quality Leering Center has been closed, for weeks now, right? And then following Nick Shirley's report, whatever we want to call it, they changed their sign and they claim there are kids in there, right? So which fucking one is it, right? Yeah. Were they closed a few weeks ago? So I think there's definitely fire there. I don't think it's just smoke, but this hasn't helped our problem with epistemology and
on either side though. It's like the left is
on either side
to look at
Absolutely.
it, and then the right's like, look at this wonderful evidence, and it's like, well, I don't know about that either. Like, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like we fall back into the team sports of it all, and it's like, okay, but like, yeah, nuance isn't sexy, and nuance doesn't sell, and kind of having reasonable positions, not as
it's not cool.
Not as cool. So, but that's what happens, and this is what happens when we make like, tracking like politics and politicians like kind of like the celebrity or entertainment factor. That's kind of, now everybody's not, it feels like everybody's into politics because politics has become the, I don't know, maybe it's not the reality TV show, but like kind of in a way, you know what I mean? And but it's the ultimate power game.
It's sports, so it's reality TV, all in one.
Yeah. And it's the ultimate power game, right? The ultimate, so I suppose it makes sense in that regard that it comes down to that. It's just hard to imagine because, like, I don't know, as a young person, politics were so boring. It was so dry. It's like I couldn't imagine this many people being, you know what I mean, disinterested in politics, politicians.
I only got really interested in politics like leading up to the 2016 election. That was when I and then from there on, I was like a spectator sport. Suddenly I know the names of all of these, and it's a good thing to be informed. Generally, there's a threshold, I'm sure, where it's a good thing, right? To I much better understood the inner workings of our government than I had before. I mean, I had a pretty good U.S. government teacher in high school, but and what brought me into it was the commotion, right? Trump, he's a reality TV star, right? And it was my fear of Trump and my hatred of Trump and all of that got me to care so much. Yeah. I don't know whether to feel optimistic or pessimistic. I don't know how I feel. I'm like I said, I'm strangely pessimistic about these fissures on the right, just because I think people are actually putting up a fight.
Yeah.
And that's way more than the left can say. But I don't feel good about the future of news and media, where people get their information from, and all of the barriers to people believing information. This is something that Destiny says that is true, that he doesn't realize is true for himself and his community also, is, and he's not the first person to make this insight, but just how siloed people's information is, he says, if he goes into his parents' house, right, they're working with a completely different set of facts and information. And that's how I feel sometimes when I go into Destiny's streams. I'm oh, wow. They don't believe this whole well-established thing that people know to be true. There is a mini QAnon about this one particular thing or something. And it's bad that it's really bad that people, and this has been a long-standing problem now, but that people determine whether they're going to trust information on the basis of a party affiliation of the person saying it, basically. That's a bad state of affairs.
I don't know how we get out of it. I don't know if we get out of it, I mean, something's gonna happen. I just, it's possible that that the younger generation kind of watching us burn everything or burn ourselves down and kind of all the chaos and destruction to people and to relationships and to how kind of fractured everything is. It's possible that they just see that and they just don't want
right,
any part of that. Kind of what I hope, but that's a long ways away.
It is
for this to,
it is
for things especially for things to get better. It's a long
especially especially if the millennials are taking over now, and the new wave of millennials into office is AOC and Zoran Mamdani. Like yeah, we're gonna have a lot. And then like apparently the Nazi Zoomers, which again, I think that's like I think that's slightly overplayed. It's really hard to know. It's really hard to know how overstated that is, the numbers, and also how much within that numbers is like people who are really just being transgressive. Because I can relate to that too. I did like that. That was part of like that wasn't part of what brought me to the right, but I found that fun as I was moving to the right, was being a little transgressive. And
the right became the fun. The right became the cool,
totally
transgressive side, and it was like one of the first times that I can remember that
it being like that.
That's happened. And but it was because like the left just became so like finger waving. You have to do this, and what was cool and everything about it was like now your mom and your teacher were telling you these things too, which is like the least sexy, cool, fucking, you know what I mean? Like enticing thing for a young person anymore.
Right.
Like you want to kind of, break out of that and find your own way. So that was like one of the things that you kind of knew that once it blew up to some of these things blew up so much on the left that like it was going to fizzle out because it was no longer it no longer had that appeal because it got adopted by too many people. So it's going to have to push. But so the right had that and they were having more fun. They looked like they were happier, they were having more fun, and I think that can't be like
the right is still having
underestimated. Underestimated.
The left is still just truly no fun at all. Their fun is performative. It's like their idea of fun is like it's like the social. It's like, oh, we've wrapped another one of our blessed protected groups in our blanket, and we're so happy about it. Can you not see how happy we are? Do we not exude happiness? Like, they're. Which is good. I'm glad it's not cool to be on the left again.
Yeah.
Because I don't want the left to. It's not good if I'm voting against, if I'm rooting against both sides.
No. Yeah. There has to be somewhere to go. Oh no. And I was just listening to like Ami before, the Ami Kozak.
Me too.
And then he was talking about thinking that I really like Ami, right? So
I like Ami, but I tend to agree more with Michael, his co-host, when their disagreements come down.
I think he's like absolutely delusional to think that like that the Jews, like the people are gonna come to see. I don't know how he put it, but like that.
It's gonna bounce back, and they're gonna see Israel as cool again, and
or whatever, or it's not going to be as bad as it is, or they're going to see Jewish people and Judaism in a different light in the coming year, and I'm like, I would love for that, but I don't know that that's ever happened. I don't know if it was ever cool, and I don't think. I'm not sure that's where it's heading. I think it's like,
no.
Yeah. I don't remember it ever being like that. And I don't know if I was like a self-hating Jew, because I don't think I had hatred about it, but there was something, I don't know, there was something. And this is like, this internalized type of anti-Semitism, I suppose, that I had as a younger person, that just felt a little, I don't know if it was embarrassed or something about it. Do you know what I mean?
Perfect word. I 100%. I was never self-hating, but I would get the ick from other Jews. I didn't want to necessarily be associated. I saw some of them as backward and embarrassing. And I remember too, I was listening to someone else say this, recently. I think it was Vanessa Hidari, who was like a spoken word, like a slam poet, basically. Jewish from New York, like a very New York girl, like grew up in, with Puerto Ricans and Black people and all this, whatever. And then like got canceled for being a Zionist, essentially, whatever. But she was talking about, which I related to so much of when she was younger, like being told you don't look Jewish and taking it as a total compliment. I loved that. I would make people guess, and usually, and I think I just like can kind of look like different things depending on who I'm around. People would guess like Spanish or something like that, and I would always I would just like lean into whatever people wanted, and I took it as a compliment. Yeah, someone said I didn't look Jewish, so no, I think that's a pretty typical experience. Yeah, for Jews.
So, and yes, and I still get that. Like people don't necessarily will not assume that I'm Jewish, and I imagine you too if they see tattoos or whatever. It's just like not something they instantaneously go to. Yeah, so there was that. So I just don't know that like we get there, because I don't know if it ever was
if it was ever there.
I can see like the amount of hatred that people are having towards Zionism now. In the end, once this kind of dies down, that could have another like that could become, I don't want to say cool, but it could have it could gain
I
a
don't think
different
so.
type of support, but it wouldn't be for quite a while. Like that would be like, that would not be in the next year. That could be like in like 5 to 10 years, like once things kind of like settle
I'm
down.
much less optimistic on that. I had this debate with someone actually who was arguing, I think for very understandable reasons, that essentially like anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism is going to go away or dramatically reduce when the war is over. The war is over, but whatever, it's not over. We get it, right? Gaza has not been figured out, right? All of this stuff. And while I think that's superficially true, it's true in the obvious sense. Like, yes, less people will be hearing about it, less people will be posting about it because they'll move on to the next thing, and all of that is true. But from my experience, as someone who is not an October 8th Jew, as someone who is a May 2021 Jew, right? Meaning that I realize just how bad the hostility towards Zionism and Jews in Israel is that it doesn't go away. It goes dormant. People get busy with other things and they focus on other things. But again, like the experience that woke me up in the summer of 2021 was a fraction of the reaction we saw after October 7th. And so my assessment is that it has grown exponentially in a very short period of time, actually. Very, very short period. So I think we're very far away from, it would be cool. I don't know. Maybe there will be a segment of the population that it'll be based to support Israel again, or to, I don't know. Frankly, I'd rather everyone just not care. Like, let it just not be a topic of conversation or a concern for so many people, because really it shouldn't be. That's the thing too. Is like Israel actually doesn't have this giant impact on American politics. The biggest impact Israel has on American politics is among the talking heads who just talk about Israel all the time, But like most people living their day-to-day life are completely unaffected by what's happening in Israel, or anything like that. But yeah, no, I think I hoped, I wished, I pray to be wrong. I'll be very happy if I'm wrong, but I've seen the anti-Zionist sentiment completely explode. I don't see it.
Oh yeah.
It would have to go down. Like so much would have to change, unfortunately, I think, to really turn that ship around. And I think
I don't think it would like ever turn around completely. I'm just saying, I think that like once this dies down, I think there could be like small, how certain things gain like small amounts of like support, and I could see that being a more transgressive thing to support, just because it's become
and I'll take that
to hate. And I would just take that like as opposed to the full on hatred. And yes, I always say it must have been awful to wake up like October 7th and to have been like super aligned with the left your whole life, and for that to be like the fucking crushing moment. I was so relieved that like, you know what I mean? Like I had already departed, at that point. I was out of the left. I had like completely distanced myself, and I did not expect anything, like I had no real tie to it anymore. And how hard that must have been for some people to like, have to reconcile with that then
Right.
that would have fucking sucked.
It was a ton of people. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it was a huge number of people.
Yes. So
Yeah, and I think the something astute that Ami said, something I like Ami a lot too. I think his political intuitions are largely wrong, but I appreciate that he's always willing to have the conversation, and he's willing to take it onto adversarial grounds. And he is a learned, proud Jew, so I know that when he opens his mouth, he's not going to say something that I so strongly disagree with or that I think is factually wrong or whatever. So I appreciate him in that way. But what he did say, which is true, is like, if 2023 to 2024 was the heartbreak of Jews on the left, basically, that 2024 to 2025 or 2025 to 2026 was the heartbreak of Jews on the right, basically. Just seeing like the support that they thought they had start to crumble. I think that's accurate.
Yeah. And at the same time, I'm like, I'm like ready to like not hear about the Jews and Israel and Zionism like for a long time in the political discourse, to the degree that we are. Like it's like become, somewhat exhausting to hear about the Jews all the time.
I agree.
It's just like, and I have to, at some point, I just have to like, I can't listen to it anymore, just because it's all, it's all garbage. Where most of it is, anyways, and like it's like the same fucking three things being cycled over. Like
well, and you understand
me,
how
boring at this point. Like, what the fuck? Why?
And you understand how people who don't have a stronger foundation of what it means to be Jewish or whatever just cower to that immediately. Because it is very overwhelming to feel like you're the topic of conversation in a very negative and hostile way. And so if you can just distance yourself from it by being like, oh, I'm not a Zionist, or no, fuck Israel, or whatever, it's a really easy out. And to Zero Fox in the chat, he said, every time Bibi brings up the Holocaust, it's like what Asman was saying, stop alting. Stop playing the ultimate card so often, taking the temperature out of everyone. They're tired of hearing it. I agree. I agree with the sentiment there, but I guess the only challenge that I would bring to that is, and maybe it's my own algorithm, largely the only people I hear talking about the Holocaust, or talking about the Holocaust the most, are the people on the post-liberal right who say that the Holocaust became America's religion, and that we need to realign ourselves after the post-World War II liberal consensus. So I think that's where I hear the most about the Holocaust. And Bibi saying dumb shit surprises me completely 0%. It's ironic because Israelis and Jews used to view Bibi as an asset in terms of communication to the Western world. He was a fluent English speaker, spent part of his life in the West and all of this, but I think he's no longer an asset in that way. He's the boomer, right? Like he's the boomer who's not actually really dialed into what's going on, politically. And so he says things that come across as out of touch and lectury and all of these things. So I don't disagree with your sentiment at all, but I do feel like, and again, maybe this is just my algorithm, the people who are talking about the Holocaust the most are the post-liberal people on the right, vaguely on the right, the people who talk about the post-World War II liberal consensus.
Yes. The people who are talking about the Holocaust are the people who constantly are talking about how they can't talk about. It's like the same crowd who's like, we're not allowed to talk about the thing that we incessantly talk about all of the time. And I'm like, this is just, it's like fucking retarded. Like, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Saying repeatedly, talking about how you can't talk about something that is the only thing that you talk about. And you're making tons of money. Like, you're making tons of money and your metrics are going up over it. Like, both things cannot be true at the same time, so
it also, like, the whole thing is weird because it's all about victimhood, right? It's like people who are sick of Jewish victimhood But in a way, they use Jewish victimhood to talk about their own victimhood. Like part of this, we spent too much time on the Holocaust thing, you know, is like look at the state of, you know, of white men today, right? It's like we are suffering, we are this, but we're told to pray to this god of the Holocaust. And frankly, before this like right wing surge of this kind of this post liberal sort of surge on the right, where I heard these exact same talking points is when I would hang out in like black spaces on Clubhouse many years ago. And like there's a ton of anti-Semitism in black communities in America. Just like, sorry, there just is. There's different flavors of it, but like it's and it's not everywhere, but it's pretty pervasive. And they would say the exact same things. And it was in effort to push their own victimhood as well. Everyone is looking at it as it is the victimhood Olympics, and it is disgusting. But they would talk about unprompted. It'd be in a conversation amongst black people with no Jews there, and they would literally be talking about every day when I was in school growing up, we learned about the Holocaust, and we saw all these Holocaust movies, and we had to read these Holocaust books, and they never taught us about this happening to us. And so it does feel like even the people who bring up the Holocaust to talk about why they don't like Jewish victimhood do so to say, and talking about the Jews is taking away from recognizing our victimhood. Like it does feel like it is done. And maybe that's not fair. Maybe I'm not being fair.
It's like that sounds jealousy to me. That sounds very jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or right. Even that is like a loaded term. But yeah, it's like
this like is whether yeah. So I guess, is that like a large portion of your academics there? Like is that an actual representation of how it is at school, that it's like, I don't know, like I'm in Canada and like I'm a bit older than you, but like we learned about it, but it was not a massive thing. Like we learned about all kinds of
it's
stuff.
Hard for me to say because right. And I like it's going to stick out more in my memory because it was relevant to me, and because like as a Jew I learned about the Holocaust, right? So I also like knew things. And it's complicated too. I grew up in a Jewish area, right? But also like it doesn't need to be like I think the frustrating part about that too is like Holocaust education is not a plot by the Jews, right? Like we still make up a tiny portion. Yes, a lot of Jews do like create Holocaust education materials, sure, like that's their life's work or their educational pursuit or whatever. But it's not like because of like annoying Jews going door to door that like schools are forced to teach about the Holocaust. Part of the reason that the Holocaust maybe gets more play than other things in American history is because America gets to portray itself as a hero in that story. Yeah. They were fighting with the Allies. They were fighting on the right side of the war, and their soldiers stepped into the camps and liberated them. Yeah. And it's not like we learned, and not that you need to, I mean, you can only learn so much. It's just a taste of it when you're going through history in one grade in school, right? But it's not like we learned then about all the Jews during the Holocaust who were prevented from coming to America and fleeing as refugees. They don't talk about the ships of Jews who were turned back because America wouldn't let them in. They talk about it. It's a nice story to make people like feel better, and it's supposed to be a tragic tale. And frankly, this is kind of the annoying part too, is like, in some ways, the Jewish world, there's often a stark difference between the way the people who are like super plugged into the Jewish world think about something and like everyone else. And I feel like sometimes I'm a bridge to that, even if only because I like spend a lot of time listening to the people in the Jewish world say these things. And I'm like, you guys are just so out of touch. But so you have the people, the normies, who are saying like, why are we always learn about like the Jews being persecuted and the victimhood of the Jews. And then you have Jews saying, and I think they're on decent ground, saying the Holocaust has been universalized, that it no longer, you know, the Holocaust is taught to kids to be like the lesson of like what racism can do to a society. But it's like, no, it was the specific targeting of Jews. And sure, it was racism, but it was this pointed up and down racism. Like it actually, there are Jewish critics of Holocaust education who
Yeah.
say that it has been totally universalized to be just a slogan against racism and not to and doesn't, you know, truly encapsulate like the goals or whatever of the Holocaust. So there's no point there. That was just a thought that came to my mind. But yeah, it's like what people choose to focus on. And no, I don't think that there's probably a disproportionate focus on the Holocaust as compared to like other historical events. But the Holocaust is not taking up any significant portion of history classes or anything like across the United States and Canada. I would just be shocked, truly shocked if that were the case.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just like, how do I say that? It's just like the fixation on the Jews again, like complaining about the Jews in a way that is like fixated on the Jews comparatively to like another group or whatever, which is, it seems to be par for the fucking course is like lately anyways, you know? So, which is, you know, kind of like, I don't care. All the critique is fine. It's just, let's, you know, maybe we don't have to spread it out equally, but like, you know, we could, it'd be better if we didn't just, you know, target it at the Jews, like the whole like dual loyalty thing. When there's so many people with multiple or conflicting loyalties, it doesn't quite. It's like that's what I hate to use the like the anti-Semitism term, but it's like that's it. Kind of the whole thing is like the, you know, the double standard, which we're holding people to. It's like, okay, well,
are you
bad things familiar? Bad, but like, we should,
Are you familiar with Natan Sharansky's like I think it's the 3Ds of anti-Semitism? Yeah. No, and that's one that like that feels so clear, right? Where like the double standard should be like clear enough for people to recognize, and some people do. I feel like when that's pointed out, some people instantly recognize. They're like, oh yeah, wow, there is like just like a completely disproportionate amount of attention and time focused on this country or this group or whatever. And then other people who just excuse that away, right? Well, we're focusing here because there's the most, they'll say, oh, the more children are dying here than it, which is like, that's just like a libel in and of itself, or it's our taxpayer money is going to it or whatever. But the double standard is huge. And I think with the dual loyalty thing too, it's like, and this is a conversation that like to anyone who like is having these conversations, it would already be an admission of guilt to say what I'm about to say. But it's like, even if people have like loyalty or a sense of loyalty to more than one place, the real question is like, is there a hierarchy? You know, it's like, are you loyal to one at the expense of the other, or do you feel an affinity, right? And like, I don't know, loyalty is a weird word too. And the whole thing is like, how do you even, there are some things that I think like make sense. Like, so I think it was Thomas Massey, who I really don't like. I know a lot of people see him as like the reasonable, principled one. I don't particularly like him, but he, I think, proposed a bill or something so that no one, you have to only have U.S. citizenship basically to serve in the government. Okay. Cool. That seems fine. Yeah. Like, you know, it's like you can make accommodations like that, right, without turning it into an actual witch hunt of people based on their ethnicity or their country of origin or their family or whatever.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Like, I don't think there's going to be a ton of pushback from that. And like, people have multiple conflicting loyalties and affinities. Like, are we going after all of them? Like, this makes it it really doesn't make sense when you start to think of like how wide it can get applied. But that's like, that's like a PF Young, like a Paul thing that he's been been bringing up the Ben Shapiro dual loyalty thing, which is just like, okay, and
Oh yeah.
and it's like, what about this? And
Well,
it
but
goes and plays the clip of Ben Shapiro so he can make it like,
And you
okay,
notice
and
he has,
like,
and
who
you'll notice he
cares?
has one clip. He has one clip,
Yes,
and that one clip is like sort of hard to parse too. Like it's not
right.
entirely clear. Right? He says like the one thing that guarantees, you know, like my loyalty, whatever, to America is like our support of Israel or the existence of the strength of the state of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
That is commentary on what it means to be a Jew in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That is what that means. It is, and again, people don't like. It does feel like you can't win either way, right? Because like I'm sure what Ben would say is that yes, ideally that wouldn't be necessary, but what he's taking a historical perspective of the Jews literally have been migrating around the world since they were expelled from Judea, and they were not safe. The reason that Jews, you know, can be safe now is because they're and this is the thing that everyone else says too. Oh, we don't have a place to go to. The Jews of Israel, and it's like not fair in some way. And it's like, well, again, I don't know. Life is not fair, and the experience of Jews in the world, and also other countries do have this, by the way, where you can gain citizenship based on your heritage. So like Israel's not the only country to do this. I know Spain has done this. Like there are other countries where they will award citizenship to people who are not living in their country on the basis of historical connection.
Yes, but where do you need to go? Like you're not being accused of dual loyalty and fucking like you see, like you only make Zionism more relevant.
Well, and actually, I just realized. Like, well, and I know Paul would not admit this, and it's probably not his goal either, but what he's actually saying is essentially Jews need to get out. Because as long as Israel would accept any Jew, then every Jew is vulnerable to the dual loyalty card in a valid way, in that literally if America came and kicked them out, right, for whatever reason, they literally would be granted citizenship in Israel. So it's almost like, and it reminds me of Andrew Gold just did an interview dramatically titled like my interview with the biggest racist in Britain or whatever. And this guy just is saying to Andrew, like, you're not British, like you're Jewish, you don't belong here, you know, go back to Israel. And Andrew, interestingly, is like I like Andrew a lot, but he's he's like more assimilationist than I am, and I guess in my disposition or whatever, like he really feels that he is British, English, and like, you know, Jews have a long-standing presence in the UK, and they are just as British as anyone else and whatever. And I could even that some of that language is like a little too flowery and a little too like lefty for me. Like groups, nations exist. There are people who are from that area, right? So even that is a little too flowery for me. But it's like, if your point is that Jews have this get out of jail free card, right? That we have, because they say this all the time. And again, it's a little scary. I'm not trying to be dramatic.
No, I know.
The call is getting louder. It's not fair that you guys have somewhere to go. Okay, well, so then what? Are we not safe until that place doesn't exist? You know, it's like, yes, we will have that place, whether we are 100% loyal to America or 0% loyal to America. Israel is going to open their doors to Jews who are fleeing from somewhere, who need it. And so it seems like the only answer then is Jews do need to get out because they're always vulnerable to this dual loyalty. What else is the logical conclusion of that?
Well, and Paul just says that,
because
like,
even if you renounce it, even if you say
Paul
I'm not a Jew,
the Jews, that we should like push Jews to like give up Zionism and to,
but they could, but that's my point too. But Jews could give up Zionism, and those Jews would still be welcomed in Israel if push came to shove. If they had to flee America, those Jews would, which by the way is what Jews tell other Jews. We have this conversation amongst Jews. This is what we say to the quote unquote self-hating Jews, is they're coming for you too. And it it happens in these micro levels. You have Peter Beinart, the biggest, you know, poke me in the butt with your large Palestinian penises Jew out there is Peter Beinart, and he got fucking trampled on by the crazy Nardine Kiswani, the crazy lady from Within Our Lifetime, because he went to speak at Tel Aviv University, he went to go yell at the Zionists basically and yell at the Jews for being evil. But because he went and spoke there, he was canceled in that movement. And so, yeah, this is what Jews tell other Jews all the time: is it doesn't really matter the affinity you have for us and for Zionism and for Israel, because at the end of the day, if push comes to shove, I hope it's not an inevitability. I don't think it's an inevitability, but if push comes to shove, you're going to be put on that train too. And I know people don't want to hear about the Holocaust, but it is in living memory for a lot of Jews, and it does impact the way that we think about things. I mean, I think about my family who got here before the Holocaust, and what freaks me out now is I'm like, oh, I came from the Jews who left before it got bad.
Yeah.
So it's like, how much should I listen to my intuitions of what's happening right now? And I'm not going anywhere. I'm really not. I'm very planted in the United States. But yeah, Jews can always go to Israel. So even all Jews giving up Zionism doesn't close that hole, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Zionism is still there for the Jews. So
yeah, and this idea that it's like a crazy thing to think of right now, while like somebody like Nick Fuentes is like rising in prominency and wants to, dispossess all American Jews of any like power and cachet, and you know what I mean, and strip them of I don't know, any influence. Well, that it doesn't sound particularly hyperbolic to be worried about what might happen,
right.
Considering some of the conversations and some of what we've seen kind of like over the last couple of years. I remember that like plane landed in Russia, the Israeli plane, like the entire airport ran like, and
there was like literally
Europe people like tracing after like Israelis. Like, okay, so there have been some things that have been very alarming, and yes, there has been a war, but the idea that like all of these people have anything to do with that war is not like that. Doesn't they have nothing to do with it, but like you've made it so that they do. So now we all have to worry because the only thing that we have in fucking common is that we're Jews. So
yeah,
you've kind of
and this is
kind of made us a people who are like anxious and nervous and like full of existential dread about what's going to happen to us. You've kind of lit a little bit of a fire here. So
yeah, no, that's so true.
Like,
no, it's true. And it's also why I think it's very important to actually defend. I know everything. I say so many things that could be clipped to hell, but that's why I think it's important to defend Israel. And I don't mean every Israeli politician, I don't mean everything they do, but to defend the morality of the war, not just to say, but Jews here aren't connected to it. Because yes, it's true. And it's true. And it is ridiculous and bigoted and all of these things to hold a random Jew in America, responsible for what's happening in Israel, because they are literally not responsible. But also when we just say what Hassan Piker tries to do, that Judaism is different from Zionism and Jews are different from Israel, is you allow them to continue to villainize and demonize Israel. And by the way, Israeli Jews they're not an evil variation of Jews, right? They're also just humans who are trying to secure and protect their families and their country and all of these things. So that's why I think like I stopped having that conversation. Yeah, that's not true. I still have it because it still needs to be pointed out, like the absurdity of holding a random Jew in your country responsible. And I do point it out in the realm of double standards. Like I've had people like attack like Jewish businesses and stuff like that over the random Jewish businesses over the war, and it's like I just simply know that you don't go into Chinese restaurants and ask them about their position on the CCP or on the Uyghur Muslims or anything like that. Like so I think that is an important part, but also that's why I find it particularly important to actually defend the morality of Israel's existence of
Mhm.
of its establishment, its existence, and the war that it's currently fighting. Because otherwise, we're giving in. It feels like nervous. It's like
Yeah.
oh, as long as you don't include me in it, you can continue to demonize all of those evil Jews over there. Just keep me out of it. And I'm
No.
yeah.
And fuck
yeah.
you. I will not criticize fucking Ben Gavir to somebody who has nothing to say about fucking Hamas or Sinwar
Right.
or any of those fucking guys.
Right.
No, it's not going to happen. No. Like, we're not going there, you know?
No.
When you talk to me about like these things are reactionary and retaliatory and all of that, then yes, and we both can play that game if you want, you know, on that end. It doesn't just go one way. So
Yeah.
you know,
And it sucks because I hate playing that game.
I just won't do it. Yeah.
Right.
Not to people who won't, you know what I mean? Not to people who who have no, I don't know, who can't do it. So
yeah. Okay, well, my dogs are they've started barking, so they are officially over me streaming for now. Yeah,
it's okay. We will reconvene again soon. Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely. I know I always say this. I want to do sooner than next week. We'll see. I know I have like a really hellish Friday, but like I might have a better schedule come the weekend, so maybe we can do something. But otherwise, next week.
Yeah, next week everyone's out of the house again, so my days.
Oh yeah, perfect.
My days are open. My son, as I was saying goodbye to him, putting him to bed before, he was like, "You can't go stream now, Mom." It's like, "What if I need you?" He's like, "You have to tell everybody that you could come back to YouTube between Monday and Friday when I am gone." And I was like, I will
between the hours of 8 a.m. and 3 p.m.
Yeah. And but then he's like, "But are you monetized yet? How many subscribers do you have?" Like he's very cute. He left a comment on a video the other day. I had to delete it, but it was sweet. But yeah, no, but I'm glad I really enjoy the conversations that we're having, and hopefully we can continue them. And
yeah,
I don't know, maybe pull some other people in the new year.
Totally.
At some point. That'd be pretty cool.
Totally. Cool.
Yeah. And thank you guys for coming and hanging out. Like the stream, please. And
yeah, thanks everyone for hanging with us.
Yeah, we will see you soon. And yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. 2026, baby.
Yep. All right. See you later.
Good night.
Night.